It is a great day to be alive, and I am so thankful for God, Jesus Christ, who lives in us. In today's video titled Two Bears and the Yellow and Red Puzzle Key, I'm going to be sharing a new dream. I'm going to be sharing some more confirmation as it relates to the week of Passover, April 12th through the 20th, as well as confirming some other events that I feel will take place during that particular week. I've shared quite a few derived dates, possibilities of things that could take place during those time frames. Today, I want to focus only on the week of Passover, April 12th through the 20th. And one day in particular, during this week, the date of April the 13th. Before we get into this video, I am not a financial advisor. Nothing that I'm sharing is financial advice. I am simply sharing dreams, visions, and interpretations that I feel God has given me as it relates to crypto. So in the previous video, I shared the date of April the 13th, looking at these two outcomes as confirmations for this particular date. I'm going to share a third form of confirmation, or what I feel is confirmation, to go along with the other two. And what I want to do is I want to focus on the dream about my student and his mom. In that dream, I saw my student and his mom, and I understood something was wrong with the housing market. I woke up from that dream. I looked at the mother's birthday. Her birthday was April the 13th. This date fell within the time frame of Passover. The second form of confirmation came from me deriving this date from a particular diagram, as well as a dream, a yellow and red dream. And by putting together all the pieces, April the 13th was a derived date. Now here again, I want to show a third form of confirmation, but I want to use the student and his mom. I want to use that dream, and I want to focus again on the date of April the 13th, and also the fact that something was wrong with the housing market in that dream. Again, looking at April 13th. So I want to begin by going back to April the 11th. A few days ago, I felt led to go back to this yellow and red puzzle key dream. I realized that I haven't said a whole lot about this particular dream, but for those who have not heard this dream before, basically in this dream, something was happening on a campus, some kind of campus in an auditorium, and there were people, bad guys, who were trying to take over the school. I'm just going to call it a school, and they were taking people hostage, and I was one of the persons that they took hostage. They took me, they locked me away, but I had plans to fight my way out. And so me and this individual, this guy, we were struggling. And as we were struggling and fighting, I saw a set of keys. I knew that he was trying to reach up and grab a set of keys. And so I began to do whatever I could to defend myself. And I beat the guy, and I took the set of keys. And when I took the set of keys, now I'm looking at only one key. And this was a flat key. And it was yellow on one side and red on the other side. And if you take a look at this puzzle piece here in the picture, that's basically how it was. I was able to take this key, put it flat against the lock of the door, and turn it. And that is how I freed myself from this particular space where they had me held captive. But this key was very unique in color, as well as the makeup of this key. It was flat. I've never seen a flat key before, and this is what it looked like a puzzle piece. And so, as I felt led to go back and look at this dream again, to analyze it, to think more about it, to pray more about it, I began to look at what I had written down. First, I saw that I created this note on April the 11th, but within the note, I wrote down that I had this dream on April the 13th. That stuck out to me. But what was wrong was the fact that how could I create this note about this dream on April the 13th and I hadn't had the dream yet? If I had the dream on April the 13th, how could I have drawn the picture and written about it on April the 11th? On April the 14th, I saw that I was doing a lot of research trying to find a key that looked similar to what I saw in the dream. Had a very hard time finding that key until I saw this puzzle that I was showing on the last slide. But anyway, this was the first page of this note. So being that the last modification for this particular note was April the 21st, it wouldn't have taken me that long to draw out this picture and write down what day I had it on and all of that. So my conclusion was that I wrote down the wrong date. Instead of writing down April the 11th, I wrote down that I had the dream on April the 13th, which was incorrect. And I feel like that was God's way of allowing this yellow and red key dream to be a confirmation for this April 13th date. Way back then, he was setting this up, understanding that in 2025, I would go back to this dream to take a look at it, knowing that I hadn't talked about it much, knowing that I hadn't really thought more about it as much, to go back and now see April the 13th. So this miswritten date to me comes as a form of confirmation. Not only that, but when we refer to something as being a key or a missing puzzle piece, it generally means that with these two vital things, something can be unlocked or revealed. There is nothing worse than putting together a puzzle to find out in the end that you're missing one piece. Back then, when I had this dream, I now believe that God was showing me that yellow and red is the key or the puzzle piece. Puzzle piece to what? Well, this year I shared that God gave me a better understanding of October 17th, what it meant, and why he revealed that to me, the meaning behind that. And so I began to sit down and put together what I call the key for October 17th. It's not a coincidence, it's just kind of ironic that I used the word key when I put these four things together as it relates to October 17th. What does October 17th mean? These four different things here. And so the fact that I used the word key reminded me of this particular dream. And yellow and red has been a color that has followed throughout this entire timeline that God has been dealing with me with, as well as Israel, the coming market crash, just giving me an understanding of what this October 17th date really, really meant. And so back then and now, I feel that God is saying that the color red and yellow is the key. It is a key. It is a puzzle piece to what? To understanding the meaning behind October 17th. And as I shared before, I'll share again. Here are all the yellow and red dreams that I've had. It began with October 17th, seeing the yellow and red ball pit balls and the date of October 17th written on all the balls. And then, of course, the red and yellow key. And then you have the red and yellow banana dream with the yellow slices. The dream about me inquiring, asking the person in my dream why October 17th. And then we also had the dream about the Rubik's Cube and me using 40 and 60. And I've shared the 40 and 60 had to do with red and yellow. I had the Bruno dream that had to do with the two pie charts that were red and yellow. And then finally on October 31st, I had the dream about the single pie chart that had the date of August 6th. So it's something about this yellow and red that God has been showing me. And I feel that, and I understand more, and I believe more, that this color of red and yellow is a key to understanding what the October 17th date stood for, what it means, the message behind it. And so this accidental date that I written down, instead of writing down April the 11th, I wrote down April 13th. I feel that God was setting me up to go back and see this and to use this as a form of confirmation for the date of April 13th, again, putting us in the week of Passover for this year. And now I want to share the new dream. Now that we looked at April 13th and that being the third form of confirmation with the key dream, I want to look at now something was wrong. Something in this particular dream with the student and his mom, something was wrong with the housing market. And that is where this new dream picks up. So in this dream, the first part of this dream, I was standing in the middle of the circle of people. Before I took my place in the middle of the circle, I was standing back watching. I was watching the crowd of kids, a big, huge crowd of kids, circle of kids, and they were playing a game. In this particular game, one person would stand in the middle of the circle and they would call out another person. The person that they called out, they would pick on that person. They would clown on them about what they were wearing, their hair, whatever it was. And so the other person, of course, would feel bad and they would leave the circle with their face covered. What it reminded me of was the Wilding Out with Nick Cannon. And so this is what this reminded me of. And so I saw about 3 rounds of this before I interrupted and told them what's going on, who are the persons responsible for this particular game. And so at first, people tried to scatter, but I ended up calling them back. I said, no, let's remake this circle again. And those who are responsible for this need to come stand in the middle. Well, to my surprise, they were all adults. So apparently the adults were encouraging the kids to play this particular game. And they were just sitting back, allowing the kids to call out another child and to pick on them and this whole big thing. And so I began to tell them how wrong they were, and how they should be leading by example, and how they should be telling the kids how to get along and play together. And as I am getting on to these people, these adults, about what they were doing and what they were allowing the kids to do, I looked in the back and I saw this huge bear approaching. And so before I can finish, getting on to them and trying to correct them on what they were doing, I told everybody to run. They looked at me like, what do you mean run? I was like, a bear, run. So everyone began to scatter, and I looked behind me and there was a house, or a trailer rather. And so I decided to just go and hide in there. So I'm going up the steps, and just as I'm getting ready to open the door and walk in, I lean forward and there was another bear in the house, just tearing it all up. And so the people were coming out of their rooms and they were looking back, talking to whoever they were talking to in the room. But when they turned around and saw the bear, they were extremely terrified. So I kind of helped them to get out of the house, and we ran to the house next door. And once in the house next door, I began to look out of the window to find out where everybody else went. So across from me was another house. And instead of the people going inside of the house, they were all huddled, to the very edge of this carport. It was full of people, and the bear was literally a few feet away from them. And so I'm thinking to myself, why not go inside the house? Why are you standing underneath the carport? Like, go in the house. But they were just huddled together, just looking terrified as the bear was coming around the corner. So before I get into my interpretation of this dream, I want to take a pause and just share what this dream so far had reminded me of. And I want to look at 2 Kings 2:23. And we see that the prophet Elijah was on his way, minding his own business. And here comes 42 kids coming out, and they begin to pick on Elijah. And it reads, as he went up from thence unto Bethel, as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city and mocked him. And they said unto him, go up, thy bald head, go up, thy bald head. And he turned back and looked at them and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the woods and tare 42 children of them. And he went from thence to Mount Carmel, and from thence he returned to Samaria. So the fact that they were picking on Elijah, they were wilding out on Elijah, reminded me of what was happening to these kids. And then the fact that 2 she-bears came out after he cursed the kids. 2 she-bears appeared, reminded me of the 2 bears that were in my dream. So I see how this word connects to what I saw in the dream, but I'm still praying about how this word connects to what I feel this dream is interpreting, and that's something to do with the housing market and the auto industry. And what do I mean by that? We know that bear, when it comes down to housing market, stock market, any type of financial market, it refers to a downturn of the markets. It could refer to a crash. With that being in mind, I began to think about the positions of where the bears were. Well, the first bear that I saw was outside. I didn't really see much going on other than the fact that we were running. And so the second bear that I saw was within the house. And so that reminded me of a housing market crash. So towards the end of the dream, whenever I was looking out of the window, trying to see where everyone else went, and I saw these large group of people underneath this carport, rather than being inside the house, they were under the carport. Just piled out to the very edge of it. It reminded me of the automobile industry, because they were under a space where cars should go. And so from that, I gathered that this has something to do with an automobile industry crash, because the bear was actually coming to where they were. And so, of course, I took to Facebook to see my cousin's birthday, which was April the 19th, which falls within the week of Passover. I've already shared that I feel like there's something that's going to transpire the past week of Passover as far as some type of crash. And I've already shared from the mom and son dream how that I felt like it would have something to do with the housing market, because I knew something about the housing market was wrong in that dream. Something was wrong. So for me, this will be another dream confirming that housing market crash, but also adding, in addition to that, a possible auto industry crash. And the date for that again is April the 19th, because that is when my cousin's birthday is. So April the 13th through the 19th is what I'm looking at as far as seeing something about the start or a crash for the automobile industry. As far as the housing market, again, I'm looking at this as a second form of confirmation. Again, these are possible dates, things that I am praying about. But that is how I am interpreting this dream so far. And the thought that I had about this is what would cause both of these types of crashes to happen. And I began to think about the tariffs, of course. So I think about Mexico and Canada and China. And so with the halt or the pause on the Mexico and Canada, we see that there's a high percentage of imports for cars, trucks, and auto parts that comes from Mexico and China. And so I thought about that, but we have to see how that plays out again, because both of those, though they're on pause as far as being, as far as tariffs goes. Aside from those two tariffs being halted for Mexico and Canada, we see on February the 10th that Donald Trump says that there will not be any exemptions on the 25% aluminum and steel tariffs. And so although those first two tariffs have been put on hold for Mexico and Canada, we're now seeing aluminum and steel, a tariff of 25% being put on everybody. So could this be the start of this? Another thing that confirmed my dream and what I thought about my dream is the same day that I had this dream. As you can see noted here, I had this dream on February the 1st, and I wrote it down at 12:51 a.m. Well, later on that day at 10:43 a.m., I saw an article that came out that talked about a family finds bear in the crawl space of their home. And I thought that was very funny, because I had just had a dream about a bear being in someone's house that night. And so for me, I took this as a form of confirmation that however I am interpreting this dream, this is what it is. But again, I'm still praying about these dates. I'm still praying about these two particular crashes. Again, I don't think that this is a coincidence that I came across this article the same day that I had this dream. Again, I'm looking at the week of April the 12th through the 20th, which is Passover week, specifically looking at April the 13th. I have shared 1, 2, 3 forms of confirmation as far as what I'm seeing for this date of April the 13th. And then I'm also adding to that a second form of confirmation as far as a housing market crash. And then for the first time, this auto industry crash. And these are the dates that I'm looking at as far as this. Again, the week of Passover. If there's anything more that God shows me as far as this timeline, this time frame that I feel that He's leading me to, I will share. Again, these are just possible dates, things that I'm praying about, but the more I pray about it, the more things like this is happening. And so I am just, my conviction is getting stronger in these dates as time goes by. Again, if there's anything more, I will share. Until the next video, God bless.